Well, the Friday meeting between the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in Washington, D.C. ended abruptly after a heated exchange of views between both leaders over Russia's war against Ukraine. Well, President Trump said not just the president, even his vice president, J.D. Vance, berated President Zelensky of Ukraine for being, quote, disrespectful and for not thanking the U.S. enough for its support to Ukraine. We have details in this report.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have President Zelensky of Ukraine.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with President Donald Trump to convince him not to take side with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, but to discuss possible U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire. He told President Trump, quote, "There would be no compromises with a killer on our territory." He was referring to Russia being in the Ukrainian territory. Without mincing words, President Trump told him he was gambling with the lives of millions of people and with World War III. He also told the Ukrainian leader that he was very disrespectful to America.
Speak very loudly about the war.
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
Shortly after the Ukrainian president left the White House, Mr. Trump took to his Truth social media app to write that President Zelensky was not ready for peace if America is involved. On X, President Zelensky thanked the U.S. for its support, adding that Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and it is working exactly towards that. The meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky has been attracting the reactions of world leaders. A former Russian president and the deputy head of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, says President Trump gave Ukraine a strong slap on the wrist, adding that all military aid to Ukraine must stop. On her part, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen posted a message of solidarity with President Zelensky, saying on X, his dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. She urged him to be strong, brave and fearless. The President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, and the European Council President, Antonio Costa, both praised the Ukrainian president, saying his dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. The French President, Emmanuel Macron, told reporters in Portugal that Russia is, quote, the aggressor in the Ukrainian war, and in his words, Ukrainians are the aggressed people. He pledged his country's unrelenting support for Ukraine, saying the United States of America, the Europeans, the Canadians, the Japanese, and many others will continue to support it. On his part, the outgoing Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, says Ukraine can rely on Germany and on Europe for a path to lasting peace. The incoming Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, said on X, "We stand with Ukraine in good and in testing times, and there should never be confusion about the aggressor and victim in a terrible war."
Right now, well, for more on the deadlocked meeting between President Trump and the Ukrainian leader, Stephen Hayes, who is a partner of Gainful Solutions, joins me now from Washington, D.C. Hello there, Stevens. What did you make of the encounter between President Trump and his vice president, as well as the Ukrainian leader?
Good morning, or good afternoon in Lagos. But I think the meeting was unfortunate in many ways. I think that, uh, frankly, I view it as more. It was more a setup. I wonder why you would have negotiations like that openly with lots of TV cameras. So clearly there was a planned script to an extent. And I think that how that evolved was very unfortunate, and I think it was unfair to President Zelensky, quite frankly. I also, as I say, I think quite a bit of that was scripted. I think it was to some extent almost inevitable that it would end that way. And I think that it's a big hole to dig out of right now for Zelensky. I don't think he was disrespectful, but I think, again, that's how it's going to be played by President Trump and his allies in Washington.
Right, but you say it appeared to be a setup, and your feeling also resonates with some others who have also given their perception of what transpired in the U.S. on Friday. But then, to what aim? What agenda did you think the Trump presidency was playing at with that encounter?
I'm sorry, the sound is very bad. It's very hard for me to hear you. I'm going to have to say things
I'm asking, can you hear me now?
Can he win the war?
I'm asking, what agenda do you think the Trump presidency was playing at with that encounter yesterday? You say it appeared to be more like a setup. What do you think the agenda is really all about?
I think the agenda for President Trump was to have a more public sympathy, at least in the United States, for his positions, and to isolate Zelensky further. Clearly, President Trump is aligned with President Putin in many ways. But that aside, it's also the mineral deal that Trump wants to have. He's a purely transactional president, and that's neither good nor bad necessarily. But his issue is to get the mineral deal through. That mineral deal is near collapse. And from Zelensky's point of view, he can't sign off rare earth minerals to the United States unless there's some type of quid pro quo security agreement. Trump's point is that Ukraine is not in a position to use that to make that request. The Europeans, on the other hand, are looking to make some type of similar deal too, so it puts pressure on Trump as well. It's a very complicated process, but I think that having it publicly aired like that was not useful to anyone unless perhaps the public relations campaign that President Trump is going. You cannot have an agreement like that by putting public pressure on the president of Ukraine either.
Well, what is it looking like for you now? President Trump has said he's in the non-aligned position, but in terms of U.S.-Russia relations now, as well as U.S.-Ukraine relations, what is it looking like for you now under the Trump presidency?
Well, I think that President Trump, I hate to go this far, but I think it's accurate, wants an alliance with Russia. And to that extent, and there's some good reasons for that. Certainly, having a more peaceful relationship with Russia would be good, but I think that it's coming at the expense of a long-term history with the United States and Europe, the United States and countries like Ukraine. It's changing the nature of the United States posture in the world, and at some point you could always argue, well, that's history. That change is important, and adaptation. You cannot hold a position forever, but nevertheless, I think it's creating a whole new world order. And what that order is going to be, I think, remains to be seen. It's going to, right now, there's a lot of chaos to this. It also puts Ukraine in an extremely vulnerable position. I think unless we do have some type of resolution, so in that regard, I think President Trump and other world leaders are right that it's important that this issue be resolved, but it's got to be resolved fairly and as peacefully as possible. And that's simply not going to happen under the present circumstances. There needs to be a sane dialogue behind the scenes to work out these issues.
Where does this leave the Ukrainian side now, especially with the humongous damage that it has incurred under the Russian invasion?
I'm sorry, I have to apologize, but again, could you repeat the question? I can't hear you.
It's fine, Mr. Hayes. I was just asking where this leaves the Ukrainian side, especially with the weight of damage it has incurred under the Russian invasion.
Again, the sound is terribly bad, but
what happens?
In any case,
what happens to Ukraine now? What advice would you be giving Ukraine now that the U.S. is talking about diplomacy?
I simply can't hear this at all. You're not coming through.
All right.
So I can't even pretend an answer. I'm sorry.
All right. We thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Hayes, for the much you have said, and hope we can have a much better